The federal budget deficit is insane. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion, federal revenue is $4 trillion. If this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. This can't keep going. Honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation. I would delete it. Delete. Man, Starship is a hard project. It is so preposterously difficult that there are times where I wonder whether we can actually do this. I think we have a chance with Neuralink of being able to restore full body functionality to someone who has a spinal cord injury. I emphasize a chance of being able to allow someone who cannot walk or use their arms to be able to walk again. It does not make sense to take the job of capital allocation away from people who have demonstrated great skill in capital allocation and give it to, an entity that has demonstrated very poor skill in capital allocation, which is the government. You can always think of Tesla as like the world's biggest robot company or semi-sentient robot company.
What are some things that you envision this bot doing?
Well, it has the potential to be a generalized substitute for human labor over time, and the foundation of the economy is labor. The fundamental constraint is labor. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. Tesla has made roughly 2/3 of all the electric cars in the United States. I'm not sure most people are aware of that. I mean, I think I'm funny. I find my jokes funny. I mean, I do crack a lot of jokes. They don't all land, but I am aspirationally funny. If we live forever, then we might become a very ossified society where new ideas cannot succeed. If we've got people in very important positions that have to make decisions that are critical to the security of the country, then they need to have sufficient presence of mind and cognitive ability to make those decisions well, because the whole country's depending on them. I don't think dropping acid makes you age less.
In this video, I've made a supercut of everything Elon Musk just said in his recent controversial interview. I've condensed the 40-minute interview down to 20 minutes by removing the ums, ahs, and pauses. I haven't cut anything Elon Musk said out. I've just removed all the fluff. Following the supercut, I'll be sharing my thoughts and comments on everything Elon Musk said. Use the timestamps below. If you've already seen the interview, you can skip ahead just to the reaction, but I do recommend rewatching it anyway. You may miss something the first time around. So with that said, let's get into it. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support.
Hi.
Hi, Elon. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you so much for being here. And by here, I mean...
Sure. Electronically.
Electronically.
My bits are there.
And where are you?
I'm at the Tesla Giga Texas factory that we're about to complete. So yeah, what you see behind me is the factory, basically. We have the office space and the factory kind of together. So I think this is kind of important that we don't have ivory tower management or engineering, and that the management and engineering is as close to the factory as possible. So yeah, so you can see what's going on in the factory and stay grounded.
Say tomorrow you get a phone call from Joe Biden and he says...
I think that's unlikely, but sure.
Okay. He just gives you a call and he says, I haven't been talking a lot about Tesla lately, but what do you need from this bill? What are your needs? What do you answer him?
To be totally frank, I don't know if at least no one at Tesla has actually brought up whether they care about this bill or not. I think if this bill happened or didn't happen, I don't know. We don't think about it at all, really. Honestly, it might be better if the bill doesn't pass, because we've spent so much money, It's like the federal budget deficit is insane. It's like $3 trillion. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion. Federal revenue is $4 trillion. If this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. So I don't know if we should be adding to that loss. That seems pretty crazy. Something's got to give. You can't just spend $3 trillion more than you earn every year and don't expect something bad to happen. I think, this is not good. The deficit is more than $3 trillion when you look at the future obligations. So it's $7 trillion of current expenditures, but it's much more than that if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going.
Okay, Elon, you don't think we need to spend anything on the infrastructure? If he says to you, what is the biggest improvement we can make to the U.S. infrastructure?
We generally could have better airports, better highways, especially in cities that are congested. We've got to do something to deal with the extreme traffic, which I think is some combination of double-deckering freeways and building tunnels. But if we don't do something, we will be stuck in traffic for forever. And as autonomous vehicles come to the fore, and it's easier to drive without going through the pain of having to drive yourself, which is absolutely coming and will be one of the biggest transformations ever in human civilization. There will be more cars on the road, and the traffic will get much worse. And so we really need to do some combination of tunnels, or like I said, double-deckering freeways. I'm not a big believer in flying cars. They're basically helicopters with wheels, and people don't want the skies to be swarming with helicopters. So it's tunnels and double-deckering freeways. We don't have a traffic problem in suburbs. We have a traffic problem on freeways because they were just too small and did not anticipate the size of the urban environments that we currently experience. But I don't see a strong effort in this direction.
What do you think the role of government should be?
I think the role of government should be that of like a referee, but not a player on the field. So generally, government should, I think, just try to get out of the way and not impede progress. I think there's a general problem, not just in the US, but in most countries, where the rules and regulations keep increasing every year. Rules and regulations are immortal. They don't die. There's not a natural... Occasionally you see some law with a sunset provision, but really, otherwise, the vast majority of rules and regulations live forever. And so if more rules and regulations are applied every year, and it just keeps growing and growing, eventually it takes longer and longer, and it's harder to do things. And there's not really an effective garbage collection system for removing rules and regulations. And so gradually this hardens the arteries of civilization, where you're able to do less and less over time. So I think government should be really trying hard to get rid of rules and regulations that perhaps had some merit at some point, but don't have merit currently. But there's very little effort in this direction. This is a big problem.
How are you spending your time these days between the split between SpaceX and Tesla?
Yeah, it's about even between SpaceX and Tesla. It depends on, what is the kind of crisis of the moment. So some weeks will be more Tesla, more SpaceX. But I work a lot. I work 7 days a week and put in I get some pretty crazy hours. So, but it really depends on where I'm needed most. I triage the tasks and try to do the things that are most useful or where I'm most needed. And it varies from one week to the next. But, just going back to that infrastructure bill for a second, because sometimes the criticism of Tesla is like, hey, Tesla gets all these subsidies. But it's worth noting that for the vehicle purchase tax credit, the $7,500, Tesla stopped getting that like 2 years ago, whereas everyone else, I think, except for GM, still gets the $7,500 tax credit. So all of our sales this year and I think last year had nothing to do with the tax credit, because we were no longer eligible because we'd made so many electric cars. Tesla's made roughly 2/3 of all the electric cars in the United States. I'm not sure if most people are aware of that. So Tesla's made basically twice as many electric vehicles as the rest of industry combined. And we don't need the $7,500 tax credit. I would say, honestly, I would just can this whole bill. Don't pass it. That's my recommendation.
What about the support, though, for the charging network? I mean, there are parts of this bill and no?
No. I mean, do we need support for gas stations? We don't. So there's no need for this for support for a charging network. I would delete it. Delete.
Okay, all right.
I'm literally saying get rid of all subsidies, but also for oil and gas.
If you think about also how this affects your competitors, is that impact how some of your view on this?
I mean, maybe they need it. I don't know. But I think just generally, I'm in favor of deleting subsidies. I mean, when we started Tesla, there were no EV subsidies at all, and gasoline was super cheap. We did not anticipate any subsidies. That came later. The $7,500 tax credit came as a result not of Tesla activity, but of General Motors lobbying for it. So I would just say, just delete them all.
There's some other good things in this bill that some would argue. I mean, a lot of money earmarked for R&D. Would you want to put that towards something?
No.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on from the bill because I think we get what you're saying on it.
If we don't cut government spending, something really bad's going to happen. This is crazy. Our spending is so far in excess of revenue, it's insane. You could zero out all billionaires in the country. There's all this like anti-billionaire BS. If you zeroed out all the billionaires, you still wouldn't solve the deficit.
How do you tax someone like you? How do you tax billionaires?
I mean, first of all, I pay a lot of tax. I mean, my marginal tax rate is like 53%. So that's not trivial. And then obviously there's like asset-based taxes, the sales tax, and everything else. There's also the estate tax. And generally, I think the estate tax is a good tax. Like if you think of assets beyond a certain level that are far beyond, let's say, somebody's ability to consume, then at a certain point, really what you're doing is capital allocation. So you're not. It's not money for personal expenditures. What you're doing is capital allocation. And it does not make sense to take the job of capital allocation away from people who have demonstrated great skill in capital allocation and give it to an entity that has demonstrated very poor skill in capital allocation, which is the government. Think of the government essentially as a corporation in the limit. The government is simply the biggest corporation with a monopoly on violence and where you have no recourse. So how much money do you want to give that entity?
Could you explain the last part quickly? And then I want to move on to some product stuff.
I mean, government is a corporation in the limit. So it is the most corporate thing. It is maximum corporation, but it's also a monopoly and also is the only one that's allowed legally to do violence. So why would you want to give a corporation with no competition that can't even really go bankrupt more money? It's not as though I think the government shouldn't exist or that they're not good things that the government can do or things that are necessary for the government to do. For example, science programs where we send a probe to Mars. It's a small amount of value for all citizens, but it would be inefficient to sort of go and collect, $10 from every citizen for a Mars probe. And so therefore it's better to have the government do something like that, like a heavy science program rather than try to collect small amounts of money from everyone. So I'm not somebody who's sort of an extreme libertarian and thinks the government should not do anything. I just think we should minimize what the government does because the government's efficiency at spending is just going to be lower than a competitive commercial company, but by a lot. If you look at, say, East Germany versus West Germany or North Korea versus South Korea, and you look at the GDP per capita of East and West Germany or North and South Korea, the difference is gigantic. It's like a random line was drawn, basically, depending on where the Red Army was and where the Allied troops were. And East Germany's productivity was like at least 5 times worse than West Germany. And it's not like West Germany was like some bastion of capitalism. They were quite socialist, really. So there may be as much as an order of magnitude difference between the efficiency of a competitive private company versus the government.
Have you, and I know now you could regain the chairman position. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about your sort of your title and your position there right now?
I mean, it's interesting that these titles. You know that there's actually only three titles that actually mean anything for a corporation. It's president, secretary, and treasurer, and technically they could be the same person. And all these other titles are just basically made up. So CEO is a made-up title, CFO is a made-up title, general counsel, made-up title, don't mean anything. It was like obviously just somebody's marketing experiment. So
I guess I'll be more direct. I mean, are you considering stepping down as CEO? Would you transfer, be chairman, and think about being chief product officer? I mean, since CEO title doesn't matter anyway.
I changed my title to Techno King. And by the way, this is a formal SEC filing. I'm legally a formal whatever Techno King. I just did that as kind of like a joke because just to show that these titles don't mean a lot. You can see what is actually legally necessary if you fill out the form for creating a C corp, and then you see it's president, treasurer, and secretary. They need a director too, but that's basically it. And then all these other chief whatever officer are basically just made up.
Is a Tesla bot in the running for any of these titles?
Not yet. It's maybe in the future.
You've talked about the importance of creating this bot for the future of AI. Tell me a little bit about where you're at with this project and what we can expect in the next coming months.
With the Tesla autopilot or full self-driving, we're effectively, I think, creating the most advanced practical AI for navigating the real world. And you can always think of Tesla as like the world's biggest robot company or semi-sentient robot company. The car is kind of a robot on 4 wheels. And so then, we could probably take that same technology and put it in a humanoid robot and have that robot be useful. Essentially, to have the humanoid part, we need to develop some custom actuators and sensors and then essentially use the Tesla full self-driving or autopilot or just generally speaking, real-world navigation AI in the humanoid robot, and I think this could be quite profound. I don't know exactly when we will get this right, but we will get it right.
What are some things that you envision this bot doing?
Well, It has the potential to be a generalized substitute for human labor over time, and the foundation of the economy is labor. I mean, capital equipment is essentially distilled labor. I was speaking to a friend of mine actually, just like what should we optimize for? And what he said was gross profit per employee, fully considered. So you got to include the supply chain in that. The fundamental constraint is labor. There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. I think one of the biggest risks to civilization is the low birth rate and the rapidly declining birth rate. And yet so many people, including smart people, think that there are too many people in the world and think that the population is growing out of control. It's completely the opposite. Please look at the numbers. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.
Is this why you have so many children?
I'm trying to set a good example. Yeah. Gotta practice what I preach.
Can you tell me what's going to happen on 12/9?
Nothing as far as I know. I don't know where this came from. I think this is just one of those memes that, I don't know, it came out of nowhere. But as far as I know, nothing. But maybe something will happen that I'm not aware of.
60 seconds and Cybertruck.
Cybertruck's going to be an incredible product. I think it's maybe our best product ever. And I think it probably will be. It has a lot of new technology, so it's a hard car to make. But it will be awesome. I think I've said before, we're aiming for volume production in 2023. I will provide a more detailed product update at the Tesla earnings call early next year. I wish it could be sooner, but that's most likely when it happens. It'll be something really special, like just one of those kind of rare products that happens once in a while. That's really special.
Now we're on to Neuralink.
Okay.
2022, how are you pushing that project along?
Neuralink's working well in monkeys, and we're also doing a lot of testing and just confirming that it's very safe and reliable and that the Neuralink device can be removed safely. People may have seen the demo that we published earlier this year, the video of a monkey playing the video game Pong telepathically using the Neuralink in its brain. And it's completely wireless, charges inductively. But basically, the monkey looks completely normal and yet is playing a video game telepathically, which is, I think, quite profound. We hope to have this in our first humans, which will be people that have severe spinal cord injuries like tetraplegics, quadriplegics next year, pending FDA approval. And I should say our standards for implanting the device are substantially higher than what the FDA requires, just as our standards for safety with Tesla are much higher than what the US government requires. And I'll take a little bit more than 60 seconds.
Yes, I'm about to cut you off.
Because I think there's something that's I think pretty cool, and emphasis on cautiously optimistic about this. I think we have a chance with Neuralink of being able to restore full body functionality to someone who has a spinal cord injury. Meaning, I think we have a chance, I emphasize a chance, of being able to allow someone who cannot walk or use their arms to be able to walk again, naturally.
Okay, I'm not going to cut that. I can't really cut you off when you're talking about that. So
it's a super big deal, and I don't want to raise hopes unreasonably, but I'm increasingly convinced that this can be done.
The last one is Starship.
Sure.
Because there's a lot happening in 2022 on Starship, right?
Yes. Man, Starship is a hard project. This is the biggest rocket ever made. It will have a thrust and mass double that of a Saturn V, which is the largest rocket to reach orbit, and is intended to be fully and rapidly reusable. This is a profound, if we are successful with this, which I think we will be, but I don't know if we'll be there in 2022. I hope so. This is a profound revolution in access to orbit. There has never been a fully reusable orbital launch vehicle. This is the holy grail of space technology. It is the fundamental breakthrough that is necessary for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization. This absorbs more of my mental energy than probably any other single thing. It is so preposterously difficult that there are times where I wonder whether we can actually do this.
What is so hard about it for just a normal person to understand? What is so hard about it?
Well, this will take a lot more than 60 seconds, but...
But now I'm so interested.
Okay. I am overdue for doing a Starship update. So we live on a planet where the gravity is actually very strong. We actually live on the densest planet in the solar system. Our atmosphere is very thick. And what this comes down to is that a typical orbital rocket might be able to put about 2% of its liftoff mass into orbit. And then this is with smart people trying hard, maybe 2.5%. And no rocket, to the best of my knowledge, has ever gotten above 4% of its liftoff mass to orbit. So now, in order to make a rocket fully reusable, you've got to basically create a rocket that can do about 4%, if not more than 4% of its liftoff mass to orbit, which hasn't happened before. So that means you have to have basically A pluses across the board, incredibly efficient engines, incredibly efficient structure. You do need scale because there are some efficiencies of scale. That's why part of why Starship is so gigantic. Because, for example, the brain of the rocket really weighs about the same if it's a small rocket or a big rocket. So with a big rocket, you get to have the avionics be basically round down to 0% or be inconsequential in the mass of the vehicle. Then you need to make an incredibly light heat shield. There's so many things that need to be done to have both the booster and the upper stage or ship be reusable. Insanely difficult. Like many super smart people have tried to do this before and no one has succeeded. And most of the time they've just given up partway through. But if full and rapid reusability can be achieved, it reduces the cost of access to orbit by a factor of 100 or more. So
more of us could go eventually.
Yeah, it's like an aircraft. Imagine if an aircraft or a car or any form of transport was not reusable. Imagine if you had to buy a new plane every time you flew. That would be air flight insanely expensive, or a car. If you had to get a new car every time you drove somewhere, that would be unbelievably expensive as opposed to simply refueling it. So we've got to get rockets to the point where we simply refuel the rocket and we don't throw it away. And with Falcon 9, we've managed to make the booster reusable and the fairing, the nose cone reusable, but not the upper stage. So we've made I think the most progress in reusability that has ever been done. But with Starship, we're hoping to make the whole thing reusable. This is profound. Like I said, it is the difference between humanity being a single planet species and a multi-planet species. It's really that big of a deal.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about humor. You're a pretty funny guy. You show it on Twitter a lot. You've hosted SNL. And I'm wondering how that plays into your management style. I mean, would your coworkers say you're funny? Is this something you're sort of bringing to the office now? Is it helped with managing your teams?
I mean, I think I'm funny. I find my jokes funny. I mean, I do crack a lot of jokes. They don't all land, but I am aspirationally funny. Yeah, I mean, we try to have a good sense of humor at the office, too. Okay.
Lately on Twitter, and you've been poking fun at people for their age quite a bit. And I wanted to have a sense of, do you not plan to age? How are you combating aging? Is there some secret technology we don't know about that you got?
I am not aware of any secret technology to combat aging. I don't know that we should really try to live for a super long time. It is important for us to die because most of the times people don't change their mind, they just die. If we live forever, then we might become a very ossified society where new ideas cannot succeed. But I'm not poking fun at aging. I'm just saying, if we've got people in very important positions that have to make decisions that are critical to the security of the country, then they need to have sufficient presence of mind and cognitive ability to make those decisions well, because the whole country's depending on them.
Well, I thought you might say psychedelics were your way of not aging, but
I don't think dropping acid makes you age less. So I think drugs probably make you age more, not less. But we're at an interesting point in history where the United States has been the world's largest economy for as long as anyone can remember. And I think the U.S. became the largest economy, I don't know, probably 120, 130 years ago. And there's nobody that old really anymore who can remember a time when the United States was not the world's biggest economy. Now we're heading towards a situation where China is going to be probably have an economy 2 to 3 times the size of the United States. And so that's just a different world. There are a lot of people in the government in China who kind of grew up with China being a small economy and maybe who feel like China was pushed around a lot, but they haven't fully appreciated the fact that China really is going to be the big kid on the block. And so, like, if you're going to be the big kid on the block, then you can really be pretty chill about things. Other countries are not really a threat to you if you're by far the biggest kid on the block. That's kind of an important mindset change. Hopefully that China goes through is just how would you want the biggest kid on the block to behave? And now, if you are going to be the biggest kid on the block, then wouldn't you want to behave like you would have wanted the biggest kid on the block to behave? I think that's pretty important. I mean, overall, I think like Tesla has a good relationship with China, and I don't mean to endorse everything that China does any more than I would say endorse everything the United States does or any country. But overall, I think we are headed to an interesting and different world, and I hope that we can remember that we're all human beings. Let's just try try to have as positive a relationship as possible and work towards mutual prosperity of humanity as a whole.
What a fantastic, insightful, and controversial interview. And by the way, you guys have no idea how long it took to edit that down. First of all, Elon Musk adamant that the government shouldn't be pissing money up against a wall. They shouldn't be spending trillions upon trillions of dollars in this Build Back Better bill. And to be honest, I completely agree. Elon Musk unequivocally against all subsidies. And as Elon said, keep spending this money, something bad is going to happen. As I've been saying since this bill was initially announced, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a complete and utter waste of money. The spending is absolutely insane. It makes absolutely no financial sense, and there's certainly going to be some dire consequences. With or without incentives, the transition to EVs is happening. This is now an inevitability. We've reached a tipping point. EVs are almost price parity with comparable internal combustion engine vehicles, and they are significantly cheaper to own because of lower maintenance costs, much lower cost to recharge versus fueling with gasoline. This transformation is already happening. Nothing is going to stop it. In just a couple of years' time, not only will EVs be cheaper to own and maintain, but they'll be cheaper to buy. There is absolutely no reason to be incentivizing people to purchase EVs today. 10 years ago, sure. Today, it's a total waste of money. To give you guys some context of how absolutely fucking insane this proposal is, just one small example, the EV tax incentive that will also apply to hybrid electric vehicles that have a battery smaller than the one found in your girlfriend's vibrator, which is effectively an internal combustion engine vehicle, will receive up to around a $10,000 incentive for purchases. 1, this is a complete and utter waste of resources. And 2, who does this help? Oh, that's right, the legacy automotive manufacturers. Not the environment, not the intended purpose of the bill, no. This is just a disguised bailout for the likes of General Motors, Ford, etc., who are incompetent and didn't take the necessary actions to transition to EVs fast enough. And then of course, we've got the completely unbiased, totally fair $4,500 union-made additional incentive for purchases of union-made electric vehicles in the United States, because union-made electric vehicles somehow are better for the environment than non-union-made electric vehicles. I'm just kidding. The real reason for this incentive obviously is because of all the bribes the United Auto Workers Union has been paying to the Democratic Party for the last 30 years. Please feel free to go fact check me. But don't get me wrong. The EV incentives will be a great boon to Tesla. It's going to mean they're printing even more money, but it's completely unnecessary for Tesla. It's completely unnecessary for the world to transition to EVs, and it's a total fucking waste of money. Should this bill pass, I believe this is going to go down as the single biggest waste of resources in the history of global politics. Let's go, Brandon! But don't blame Grandpa. It's not his fault. He's suffering from early stage dementia. By the way, check out the card in the corner or the link in the description for your own Let's Go Brandon merch. Shirts, mugs, hoodies, phone cases, long sleeves, singlets, and even stickers. Now, I know many of you are currently experiencing severe butthurt. I've offended you because I said some things that are accurate about the current president of the United States, his cognitive abilities, and this insane spending, but zero fucks given. Which segues perfectly into what Elon Musk had to say later in this interview. I quote, "If we have people in very important positions that have to make decisions that are critical to the security of the country, then they need to have sufficient presence of mind and cognitive ability to make those decisions well, because the whole country is depending on them." I mean, I don't think anyone who themselves has sufficient cognitive abilities would disagree with that very obvious and reasonable statement from Elon Musk. And I've got to say, I don't think Joe Biden either has the ethical, moral, or cognitive capabilities to be running a country. It would be far too easy to mention the Afghanistan withdrawal, so let's just move on. Elon Musk also mentioned that Tesla has produced approximately 2/3 of all of the electric vehicles ever produced in the United States, meaning Tesla has produced about twice as many electric vehicles as the rest of the US automotive industry combined. Stunning fact. Elon Musk also discussed taxes and the hatred towards billionaires. By the way, a special shout out to Bernie Socialist Sanders and Robert F***face Reich, constantly attacking Elon Musk, pointing the finger, blaming him for all the world's problems. If only we tax billionaires more, like Elon Musk, then we'll solve all of the world's problems. Elon Musk rightly pointing out that assets beyond a person's ability to actually consume is effectively capital allocation, not personal expenditure, and should be treated accordingly. Quote, "It does not make sense to take the job of capital allocation away from people like Elon Musk, who have demonstrated great skill in capital allocation, like creating well in excess of 100,000 jobs, transforming the entire automotive industry, the entire rocket industry, these kind of things, and give it to an entity that has demonstrated very poor skill in capital allocation, aka the government." Couldn't agree more. Let me know in the comments below if you guys and girls agree. Would the world be a better place if people who've demonstrated an incredible track record for deploying capital, creating jobs, having a positive impact on the world, were able to retain more of that capital to continue to deploy effectively and create more jobs and improve the world even more? Or is it better to tax the flying out of these people, give the money to the government, and then let the government spend the money incompetently and inefficiently? What do you guys think? Let me know below. And by the way, here's a little truth bomb for everybody watching. You know, they tax the rich folks, there shouldn't be billionaires shouldn't exist, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something about every single one of these people. 1, they suffer from some form of mental illness, usually depression. 2, they hate themselves. 3, they're at the absolute bottom of the social and dominance hierarchy. Because they feel so bad about their circumstances and don't want to take any personal ownership, they point the finger. It's the billionaire's fault that I hate my life, that I've got no money, I add no value to society, and I want to kill myself. Just the facts. And by the way, don't get me wrong, I'm not making light of depression, of mental illness, of people who are struggling to get ahead in life. But I am just pointing out an observation I've made about every single person that I've seen spitting venom, vitriol, and hatred towards billionaires and saying we need to tax them more and they shouldn't exist, is just projecting how they feel about themselves onto others. Elon Musk also pointed out that Tesla is effectively the world's largest semi-sentient robotics company. This is currently being achieved through autopilot / full self-driving, but ultimately this AI will become artificial general intelligence, be deployed in Tesla bots, and completely transform and massively expand the global labor market. Elon Musk also followed up pointing out that he believes the biggest single threat to civilization is population collapse, and encouraged everybody, make more babies. Let me know in the comments below if you have children, how many children do you have, and if not, are you planning on having kids? How many? And as I confidently told my Patreon supporters a few weeks ago when I was asked about this, Elon Musk has officially confirmed nothing is happening on the 9th of December. 12/9, it's a nothing burger. Move on. Regarding Tesla's Cybertruck, Elon Musk confirmed volume production targeted for 2023. The Cybertruck is going to have an absolutely insane amount of technology. And not only that, Elon Musk very confident that it's going to be Tesla's best ever product. Let that one sink in. And the thing that really hit me in the feels the most, Elon Musk confirming that he's confident, cautiously confident, but confident that over the long term, Neuralink will be able to restore movement, bodily functions, the ability to walk and move limbs to people who currently have spinal cord injuries, e.g. quadriplegics and tetraplegics. The quality of life improvement, the reduction of suffering that Neuralink could bring to these people is just unfathomable. Pending FDA approval, Neuralink hoping to have the first Neuralink implants in humans next year. One more time, next year. First Neuralinks in humans next year. I really believe that when all's said and done, Neuralink is going to go down as Elon Musk's most important company. No contest. Do you agree? Elon Musk also had some fascinating insights around SpaceX and in particular, Starship, the vehicle that we need to be able to colonize Mars and become a multiplanetary species. In a moment of candor, Elon Musk admitting that sometimes he even doubts whether or not SpaceX will succeed in building Starship. Of course, this is really Elon's way of emphasizing just what an incredibly challenging engineering feat this is. Mark my words, Elon Musk and SpaceX will successfully build a rapidly and fully reusable rocket, or Elon will die trying. Elon also confirmed that he spends more mental energy and time thinking about Starship than anything else by quite a margin. That should give you some context as to just how difficult a challenge this really is. Elon Musk also discussing his sense of humor, saying he likes to have fun and make lots of jokes. He thinks he's funny and his jokes don't always land. I can definitely relate on all of those points. And one of the more controversial moments in the interview was when Elon Musk admitted that he doesn't actually think that people should be striving to live a long time. By a long time, I'm talking about far longer than we typically do. The thinking here is that generally speaking, people don't tend to change their mind. Instead, they eventually die and new people are born, new ideas are born, blah, 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 blah. And if people are living for very long periods of time, this is going to cause society and civilization to ossify, a total lack of progress, innovation, and new ideas, not ideal over the long term. And while I completely agree with the reasoning, and I think Elon has a great and super valid point, I'm also incredibly selfish and personally intending to live as long as I possibly can, ideally indefinitely. This is something that I've discussed in detail with my Patreon supporters on many of the exclusive Q&As. By the way, I've now recorded over 100 exclusive Q&As, so check out the card in the corner or the link in the description to sign up to Patreon. You'll gain access to the entire back catalogue plus a ton of other exclusive content and perks. I do a lot of things every day to optimize my health. I've been eating low carb and predominantly ketogenic for over 10 years. I do intermittent fasting, I supplement like crazy, I get enough exercise, I do everything I possibly can to optimize my health other than probably working a little bit too much. But hey, nobody's perfect. Anyone else doing their best to live long enough to live forever, optimizing for their health and longevity? Elon Musk also had a pretty funny response for the interviewer asked about psychedelics psychedelics helping with longevity, and Elon Musk saying, I don't think dropping acid is actually going to help you live any longer. Probably the opposite, and if that's true, honestly, I'm probably already past my use-by date. I'm not going to lie. And at the end of the interview there, Elon Musk finishing on another controversial subject, China, the US-China relationship, and Tesla's relationship with China. Elon Musk, a few words of advice suggesting that over the longer term, China's economy is going to grow to be 2 to 3 times that of the US economy. And Elon Musk gently suggesting there that China will be the big kid on the block, and maybe the big kid on the block, economically speaking, should act in a way that anyone else would want the big kid on the block to act. The closing statement from Elon Musk, let's try and have a positive relationship and work to the mutual prosperity of humanity. Words of wisdom, if you ask me. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. What were your favorite moments, your favorite insights from this interview? Let me know in the comments below. I have to say, it's nice to see Elon Musk again, being Elon Musk, having large balls and actually saying what he thinks about all sorts of controversial issues. The media currently having a field day, taking a lot of things out of context, painting Elon Musk in a negative light. But of course, Elon doesn't give a f***. If only I could muster the courage to say what I thought. Oh wait. Now, if you made it this far, feel free to pick up some Don't Bet Against Elon merch. There's a card in the corner and a link in the description. You can pick up shirts, long sleeves, mugs, hoodies, phone cases, and plenty more. These are great conversation starters, so expect to hear from a few people when you're wearing these out and about. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan, this is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.